What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another Bring the Juice Colts podcast live stream. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us tonight. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying your Tuesday evenings. Guys, we've kind of been talking about it a little bit over the last week. This isn't new news, but at the same time, we got to continue to talk about it because, hey, Indy is in a great spot. The Indianapolis Colts are in the playoff mix once again, and a bunch of different things are happening. And, Cody, we were talking last night, we kept mentioning how, with what's going on with Trevor Lawrence, some things definitely could be very interesting moving forward. So why don't you go ahead and give us a rundown here?
Yeah. What's going on, everybody? Good to see everybody here tonight. So Indianapolis Colts right now, and we'll get into explaining a little bit, but currently the number 6 seed ahead of the Cleveland Browns, surprisingly. But yeah, when talking about where the Colts stand right now, firmly in the wild card picture. You talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars losing that game last night in overtime to the Cincinnati Bengals, which, man, talk about that's going to be an interesting game on Sunday between the Colts and Bengals, because before that game, Derek, the Bengals looked dead in the water. They looked like a team that, Indy might not have a whole lot of trouble with. But, they showed a lot of things, I think, on Monday Night Football. I guess the good thing is the Colts have them at home and also on a short week. So, does that potentially play in Indianapolis's favor? But yeah, when it comes to the division, though, Derek, Trevor Lawrence obviously sustained that injury. It was updated today that it's a high ankle sprain, according to Jacksonville Jaguar head coach Doug Peterson. They're generally a week-to-week injury. So, Derek, it definitely seems like Trevor Lawrence is going to miss at least a couple games here, which could definitely go in Indianapolis's favor, and could definitely help them, only being, I guess, technically a game back. But, I mean, again, Jacksonville does have the head-to-head over them. They did sweep them earlier in the season. So, but all that to say, Derek, there's 5 games left. Jacksonville's trending down with Trevor Lawrence being injured. Obviously Christian Kirk being out for, potentially the rest of the season. They had 2 really pretty big injuries to some key players on their offense. So that's kind of where we currently stand. And Derek, could we see that Week 18 game, Colts versus Houston? That could potentially be a battle for the division now, which is crazy to even think about. But that's kind of where it currently stands right now with the Colts, with their playoff hopes. There's a lot going on. And let me just say, Derek, the AFC is an absolute bloodbath right now. There's so many teams right on the cusp of playoff, wild card, all that. It's just crazy how many teams are still in the hunt and not that far off from, potentially jumping into a wild card spot. So it's just been absolutely wild just seeing this whole thing unfold, the first 12, 13 weeks of the season. So, yeah, man, that's kind of where we currently stand when it comes to the Indianapolis Colts being right in the mix with every other team here for, those playoff spots, and obviously some very highly coveted playoff spots at that. So it's going to be interesting to let in the last 5 weeks here for Indianapolis. And, you do think there are some very much some winnable games for the Colts, but the Cincinnati game got a whole lot more interesting with what they did against the Jaguars on Monday Night Football.
Oh, yeah, no denying that. You'd be a fool to think that now all of a sudden the Bengals are the exact same team based off of what you just saw the other night. But, I mean, it is kind of funny just because, again, what you saw yesterday against Jacksonville, I mean, talk about the game of his life. I mean, that was truly incredible. I mean, Cody, he completed 87% of his passes, 87%, and then threw for 350 yards. I mean, my goodness, he could do absolutely no wrong. I don't believe that we will see another game like that from Jake Browning again this season. I truly don't believe it. Everyone has an elite game every once in a while, but My goodness, that was something. I don't know how in the world he did that. But I think it just had a lot more to do with the looks that Jacksonville was giving him. And also it just came down to there was a couple times when Jacksonville was playing man to man and you had Jamar Chase open down the field a lot more often. And you saw Jake Browning be able to convert, be able to get, those types of throws that he wanted. And that's something where, Indy's going to have to try and make sure that doesn't happen. Again, we talk about this offensive line, even after what we saw from Jake Browning, certainly does not mean that this Bengals offensive line is not any better than what we saw. I mean, they still gave up 3 sacks against Baltimore, gave up 4 sacks against Pittsburgh. This is still the same team. So there is plenty of chances for Indy to be able to get to the quarterback and make it difficult for Jake Browning. And it's definitely increased its meaning now because with Cincinnati winning that game now, Cody, you now have the Cincinnati Bengals who are still in the playoff hunt. I mean, they're only a game behind the Cleveland Browns, who are in the 7th seed now. So you're right. There are 4 teams that are within a game of the Cleveland Browns, and they have, it's such a big chance for these teams to be able to move up in these standings. And of course, the Texans, right there next to it. This Indianapolis Colts team certainly has its work cut out for them, but they can definitely do something which is much needed. I mean, you give it a chance for Indy to not only win this game, but then you pretty much knock the Cincinnati Bengals out of the playoff contention for the most part. And then, that gets rid of 2 birds with 1 stone. So this definitely has risen the stakes on this game.
Yes, it has. Yeah, I mean, this definitely feels like going to be a playoff type of atmosphere, in Cincinnati. And so definitely think the Colts have to be on their A game. This isn't going to be a typical backup quarterback that we're used to, a guy that got thrown in there, Jake Browning. He actually has shown that he can, play some pretty good football when given the chance. And so, yeah, the Colts they have to just, obviously, the Bengals with or without Joe Burrow, they still have a ton of weapons. They still have a ton of guys that can beat you down the field. Kind of similar, Derek, to maybe I think Cincinnati's obviously better at this point, but you think about Tampa Bay, they may not have the greatest quarterback in the world, but they still have Mike Evans, they still have Chris Godwin, they still have a few pieces that can really do damage. And I think Cincinnati has that and even more. They have a Joe Mixon type of running back who just absolutely destroyed Jacksonville as well. So even though they do have a rookie quarterback, they have some very elite weapons right now that, if there was any game that you need Juju Brents back for, this is the game because, you need your secondary at full strength for this matchup because it's going to be a very, very interesting battle. But yeah, I think the Colts what they need to do, Derek, is they need to, so let's be real. The Colts just really need to make Jake Browning look like an undrafted quarterback, don't they? They need to make him look like an undrafted free agent. They need to make him look like he's looked previous, and they need to make him look like a backup quarterback. So if they can do that, they can put pressure on him and kind of bring him back down to earth a little bit more. And again, Derek, somehow, some way, the Colts have been so much better on the road than at home this year. And also, I believe that they are 4-1 on the road this year, or 4-1 outside. I mean, now. Is it or whatever it is? They've only lost one game outside this whole year, and so the Colts, I think they have the makeup to be make it a physical slogfest. I think that's what they can do in this game. And Nick, if they can make life difficult on Jake Browning and not allow what Jacksonville essentially allowed Jake Browning to get into that rhythm, feel a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, they still hit him a little bit, but during the end of that game, Derek, Jake Browning had all the time in the world to find his guys. And so the Colts just simply can't allow that to happen. And also, they can't allow, Joe Mixon to go off like he went off against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they just need to come up with a better game plan than Jacksonville had and kind of be able to, bring him out of rhythm a little bit more and kind of bring him back to reality of where he's been, throughout his first couple years here in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, again, Jacksonville didn't have a great defensive game plan against the Cincinnati Bengals. That was obvious. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. Indy's defense is certainly less for wear, not a great unit statistically right now. But like you said, Indy on the road has been a really great team this year. They string together wins. I mean, they somehow do it, and they get game plan. They game plan very well. And without going too much more into detail on this game, we're gonna again have a preview of this later in the week. And again, I'm going to this game, and I know that when it comes to the weather, it's gonna be mid 40s, and it's gonna be rainy. It's gonna be wet. It's not gonna be great field conditions. It's gonna be sloppy. So it's much different field conditions this time around than what you were just playing in Jacksonville when the weather was much nicer. So you're getting some guys back defensively that you hope, especially with Grover Stewart. It's going to make things a lot more different for the Colts run defense, especially down the stretch, right? So again, this game, I will reiterate it just one more time for Colts fans. This is not a lose and then you're out entirely situation. But it 100% definitely makes it a whole heck of a lot harder to be able to make it to the playoffs if the Colts aren't winning football games, because clearly, I mean, again, the Texans are right on your tail. So that's the big one right now. You can't be falling behind when it comes to the Texans right now. And that's going to be the big one. Now, I will say this for people who are just tuning in. So thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like the stream and whatnot. I know people have been asking, why are we the 6th seed? Our guy Logan kind of brought this up on Twitter earlier. And then I want to kind of just bring it up here real quick. So, he kind of broke it down as to why the Colts are the 6th seed, because remember, the Browns have the head-to-head when it comes to Indianapolis and the Browns, but he goes at it like this. You apply the divisional tiebreaker to eliminate all but the highest ranked club in each division prior to proceeding to step 2. Key in on this. The original seeding within a division upon application of the division tiebreaker remains the same for all subsequent applications of the procedure that are necessary to identify the 2 wild card participants. So like in the AFC North, the Steelers are ahead of the Browns and they're second in their division. And that's why they get the nod over the Browns. And then the AFC South, the Colts are ahead of the Texans. So the Browns are 3rd in their division, while the Colts are 2nd in their division. So basically, it's insinuating, even though Cleveland won the head-to-head, Cleveland is 3rd in their division versus us being 2nd in ours. So therefore, the Colts get the nod above the Cleveland Browns. Now, again, I know a lot of people are saying, like, this place says this place says this. The NFL.com, the actual league, is specifically stating that Indianapolis is the 6th seed. They're not lying, and they're not idiots. They know that the Colts are the 6th seed. So if anyone wants to question it, just go on to make sure to go to NFL.com or go on to Twitter and then be able to and just look at their Twitter page. They have it literally up. So it is what it is. Indy stays above there. Cody, it's quite the crazy debacle that we are in, but we have to talk about it, man. How does Indy have a chance now, a realistic chance, to actually win this division now that we see that the Jacksonville Jaguars might miss Trevor Lawrence for maybe a week or two, maybe even potentially more. And Christian Kirk most likely is out for the remainder of the season. And you have this situation where they're missing some of their best guys.
I mean, I think I would say with Trevor Lawrence, with a fully healthy Jacksonville team, I'm like, that's probably a little bit too greedy in my mind. But yeah, I mean, dude, the Jaguars didn't look very good at all with CJ Beathard back there. So I think anything's possible at this point. You really wish that the Colts would have somehow split with Jacksonville, and this would have made things a whole lot more interesting. But yeah, I mean, if Trevor Lawrence misses 2 to 3 weeks and Jacksonville, all of a sudden's out losing all these games, hey, man, anything's possible. So never say never. I guess it really will depend for me how long Trevor Lawrence is out. If he only misses a week, then probably not. But if he misses 2, 3, 4 weeks or whatever, maybe we're talking about that a little bit more. But again, the Colts have to take care of business too. Right. And Cincinnati's not going to be a walk in the park. They're going to be a very difficult football team to take care of because they still have a ton of talent. I mean, Derek, with healthy Joe Burrow, this is a Super Bowl team. Like they are talented as can be on so many areas. There's a ton of different guys that can beat you. And so I think the Colts definitely are going to have their hands full in this game. But again, can they overcome some of the deficiencies that Cincinnati does have, and mainly being having a backup quarterback, who played very, very well in this game against Jacksonville, but again, still is an undrafted free agent for a reason. So it's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this game can Jake Browning continue that hot streak that he started against the Jacksonville Jaguars, or can the Colts kind of bring him back to reality? And if they can, and if, he misses a couple games, Trevor Lawrence, I think it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is possible. I mean, it's truly crazy to see what the AFC South is dealing with right now. I mean, again, looking at it, Jacksonville, even beyond that, the Dolphins and the Ravens feel like the only two teams right now that don't have a situation where they feel like as if they could lose their playoff spots. I mean, the Chiefs have dropped, the Jaguars have dropped, the Steelers and the Browns and the Colts all have 7-5 records. And then when you talk about the bottom four teams, Houston 7-5 as well. And then the Broncos, Bills, and the Bengals all 6-6. I mean, it's everybody's within 2 games when it comes to this stuff. So there's a lot going on. Now we will suggest this: the Indianapolis Colts, albeit only a game behind Jacksonville when it comes to record. Just remember, even if Indy ties Jacksonville in the record, the Indianapolis Colts cannot get the spot over Jacksonville because they have the worst divisional record, and the head-to-head is the issue there. So Indy, no matter what they do divisionally, they're not going to be able to get a better divisional record. Their only chance to hit that 4th seed or whatever seed they end up to win the division is you have to have a better record than Jacksonville.
Yep. Let's get into some of the comments here because I know we don't have a ton of time left, Derek. Leo asks, are you going to stream the Saturday night primetime game versus the Steelers? Derek, I know you're going to maybe join me for a little bit, but I'm going to probably take the lead on that one because I know you have something going on, some sort of party or something where you're not able to do it, of course, because they put it on a Saturday.
Of course, because they put it on a Saturday. I'm so mad about that.
Yeah, so I'm going to be really taking the lead the next 2 weeks when it comes to the live streams for anybody who's curious. So we will still have them, but I'll kind of be taking the charge there.
Sweet.
Phantom, I don't know, Fathom, however you say it. He says Grover Stewart's back as well. Yes, definitely Grover Stewart is back. And Derek, in a game that could get potentially sloppy and nasty out, you need your best run defender out there, to make Cincinnati, force Cincinnati and Jake Browning. I think this has to be the game plan. you have to force Jake Browning and potentially bad weather to beat you. I think that's what you got to do. You got to force him to be like, all right, we dare you to try to do that again, against us. And the Colts will hopefully have Juju Brents back. The Colts will hopefully have the weather on their side when it comes to, the sloppiness and not being able to throw the ball. But I think it will kind of be that kind of slugfest.
Kind of
I think that goes in the Colts'
Cody,
favor.
of the Baltimore one.
Yeah, and I don't know how bad it's going to be, but it could be kind of like that, where it's like, not a whole lot going on passing the football wise.
In your opinion, toughest game left? Well, it's clearly the Texans. I would say that's definitely the hardest matchup.
I'd say this is number 2, though.
I'd say this is one of the bigger ones too, because the problem is not I don't really fear the Bengals defense too much. It's their offense. Despite not having Joe Burrow, you still have Jamar Chase, who's a top 10 wide receiver in the league.
Oh, yeah.
You still have T. Higgins, who's a perennial top 25 wide receiver in the league. You still have Joe Mixon, who, when he runs at his best, definitely can play like a top 10 running back in this league. And we've seen this defense this defense over the last several weeks has obviously been able to get to the quarterback, and they've been able to make things tough. But at the same time, in the same breath, they've statistically not been great. And we even saw last week against the Tennessee Titans. Yeah, you got 6 sacks, but Will Levis was dicing you up. They were running the football with ease in the first half before the Indianapolis Colts got better at it. So there's a lot of different factors in it, and it still does concern me that Indy's defense is going to have one of their best weeks of practice, because if what we saw from Cincinnati yesterday is any indication, then that definitely is worrisome.
Yeah, but also, you get Grover back, you get Nick Cross some more snaps. Look what that dude was doing, when he got opportunities. So I think you keep increasing his play snaps. Maybe you get Juju Brents back this week. That could be the big boost that you need to take it to another level. We already know, despite some of the crap the defense has put out this year, they were able to get after the passer. They're able to harass quarterbacks this year. And Cincinnati, Derek, before last night, they haven't been a great offensive line. So, I think the Colts still can take advantage of this very susceptible offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals. And so I think, the addition of Grover, obviously other guys got to play better as well against the run. I don't know what it's been, Derek, but it feels like guys are just taking really horrible angles as of recent, trying to tackle the running backs. It's not like they're, getting outpowered or anything. They're just missing.
What's funny, Cody, is I think last week it showed you a lot of the problem was that Indy, when they didn't load the box, Derrick Henry had, I think, there was 11 rushes from Derrick Henry in that game in which he faced only 6 people in the box. On those 11 runs, he only had 32 yards. So 32 of his 107 yards that he had, or more than that, was because of 6 people in the box. When he had 7, 8, or 9 guys in the box, that's where he did the most damage. And it's amazing to think about that, because it's like, that's supposed to be the opposite. I think you're right. I think the problem is Indy might be in a situation where when they're loading the box, I think the problem is, you're right, they might just be taking bad angles. They might just not be fixing on where they need to go, not winning their assignment in that spot. And then that worries them, because if you don't get touched, when you load the box, and then if you don't get touched by the second level, then there's nothing you can do. It's a guaranteed 10, 15, 20, and then maybe a breakaway run if you don't get touched, right? So the whole point of having a loaded box is to try to get one of those front 4 guys to make someone on the defensive or on the offensive line miss. And that was the problem in the last game, was that very few times did Indy actually be able to do that against the offensive line of the Tennessee Titans. Now, I will say the Tennessee Titans run a lot more strong man running protection schemes that run a little differently than how the Cincinnati Bengals do it. So from a run perspective, the Tennessee Titans do it a lot better. I'm not as worried about if Indy loaded the box more on Joe Mixon. I definitely think we could win that battle a lot more often. But it definitely was a little bit surprising given that Derrick Henry did his best work when there was a loaded box.
That's interesting. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping that, maybe, like, obviously we know what Grover can do, on the field. Like, he's one of the best, if not the best, run stopping one techs in the NFL. But I'm hoping from like just a mental perspective, it gives this Colts run defense some more confidence, right? To get their guy back in the middle, and they just start, gaining some of that confidence back. Because I do wonder, Derek, how much of it is mental, how much of it is up here the last few weeks when, they're like, we don't have Grover, we can't stop the run. Like, how much of that is them telling themselves that? But now if they have Grover Stewart back, they start to gain some of that confidence and that swagger back. Because, Derek, I know they haven't been great even with Grover at times, but they've also had some games where they looked really good, when Grover was playing, so against the run. So I do think there is a chance here that he brings back some more of that swagger to this defense in terms of stopping the run. And hopefully that's kind of the boost they need with his play, and also just adding another layer of confidence into this run defense. So really excited to see kind of how this game plays out, because, Derek, on paper, the Indianapolis Colts, they have some advantages in this game. And I know we'll talk about that more when it comes to the preview later on in the week. And I'm really intrigued to see how this injury report kind of comes out tomorrow and then the next coming days when it comes to a few of these key players, specifically Juju Brents, Braden Smith, some of those guys. Kind of how are they coming back? We haven't really gotten an update on either of those guys yet as of this week. I know it's still pretty early in the week, but intrigued to see kind of how that plays out. But yeah, man, through 12 games, Colts are right there controlling their own destiny. If they just keep winning, I mean, they're going to make the playoffs, which is just crazy to think, considering, a lot of people said this is a 3-4 win football team this year, and they're already surpassed a lot of people's expectations. I believe the over-under from Vegas was 6.5 wins. So the Colts have already obviously beat that. And so that's definitely a great thing. And it's crazy to think, Derek, with 5 games left, the Colts could win all 5. Like, there's a chance. I don't know if they will, but there's a chance that they could win all 5 in this match, in this stretch. And if they were able to do that, man, talk about a turnaround. Holy cow.
Yeah, 100%, man. Did you have anything else that you wanted to hit on here?
Not a ton. Just wanted to kind of talk about the Colts being in this playoff mix. And I know we weren't able to obviously talk about it. I know you made a quick video late last night after that the Bengals won that game. But no, just wanted to hop on here for a little bit. I know you got to get to your AFC South roundtable here coming up soon. But just wanted to hop on, talk about kind of where the Colts currently stand when it comes to the AFC playoffs and with Cincinnati Bengals and the 5 remaining games that they have. So, but no, that's all I just wanted to do. So that's really all I had to say.
Yep. And again, guys, we're going to keep you updated on everything that's going on with the Colts and their playoff race as they try to continue to keep moving forward in this division and in this conference. So make sure to keep an eye on that. Thank you guys so much. Make sure to hit that like button on the way out for you guys. Also, make sure to go to the AFC South Roundtable in half an hour and make sure to be there to support me. I'm going to probably be the loudest and proudest dude in the whole roundtable. So make sure y'all go in there and let's own these other fan bases, because I know the Jags fans always are hopping in there. Texans fans are always in there. There's not enough Colts fans in there. You guys got to come in there. You guys got to help me out. Okay. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. And as always, guys, go Colts.